Interesting video for you today. These are going to be very, very stiff. You know, I've been trying to like bend and flex these. You know that it's been handmade. These spin beautifully, like fast, efficient, confidence inspiring on even the roughest of roads. This is a nippy little set of wheels. So we are on the Garban Pass at the moment, heading up towards Troutbeck. We're going to drop down there, Kirkstone Pass, Jenkins Crag. Good to see how well this like resin holds up to a bit of a battering. Having that confident handling is so important. I've just been sent a set of wheels from a French brand, legitimately made in France. No Chinese wheel brands on this channel. So these are the Corima Essentia 40s. And the reason I've got this is because I was a little bit rude about a look bike that got spec'd with Corima wheels. And I was like, it's a bit annoying that they've got Corima wheels on it. They're pretty difficult to get parts on and that sort of thing. And so Corima said, you know what, we're going to send you a set. Tell us what you think, actually ride, because we don't see these very often. There's not really a distribution channel here in the UK, but maybe we might change that. And they sent me these to give them a go. Now, this is like my hypothesis. We're going to sit here, go through some of the build spec, and then we're going to take them for a ride. I'm going to come back and like try and get my head straight about how they ride and everything else. But these are a set of wheels where you get them out of the box and you instantly get that feedback of this is a high quality product. Sometimes when you can just unpack like a Zip 303S and it kind of looks and feels like you expect, you paid your money and you sort of get it and it's like, oh yeah, nice. These have got the same sort of emotional attachment as when you unpack something like a Time bike, and you can immediately see that there's real craftsmanship and someone's actually built this. You can see little details which makes you know that it's been handmade. Things like you can see where the resin's gone through and the 3K weave isn't exactly perfect, but the finishing is perfect. You can see where someone's gone in here with a sort of 800 grit or something and just made sure that everything is flat and precise. And you can see where someone has pushed down the rim tape, and you just get that impression that these are crafted as opposed to just assembled sort of in a factory. What's immediately striking once you sort of get past the rim and sort of that lovely sort of handmade carbon feel is that they're using a very different spoke configuration. At first, I thought, oh yeah, they're using Sapien CX-ray spokes. They feel, anyone that's used to handling wheels will recognize that sort of slightly oval feel of a Sapien CX-ray, but they're rotated. So where they're bent at the end is the other way around, and they actually lace these in a slightly different configuration so that the heads come into the hub. There's a different angle here, which makes for this really interesting spoke configuration. I couldn't find much on Corima's website about whether this makes a difference in terms of stiffness or performance, or whether it's just a sort of a signature thing that they do. But I mean, they feel super stiff. I've been trying to like bend and flex these and as best I can, and they feel super stiff, but we'll test that out on the road as we go. And the interesting thing for me really is how the spoke lacing allows for this sort of tangential feel. So the sort of the load gets transferred through the wheel in sort of very linear fashion without having to have lots and lots of different crosses. So this is only a 2 cross on this drive side and only a single cross on the non-drive side. You wouldn't normally do a single cross in a normal conventional hub configuration because it puts quite a lot of strain on that joint, but here, how they've done this makes that kind of work. And you can see that as the pull-in spoke is sort of rotated, so you can imagine that as you rotate here, this is the spoke that's pulling the rim round. This is supported not by the flange, if you like, of a traditional hub, but it's actually supported by the trailing spoke, and then it gets laced over again. So I think this is what's going to really help its stiffness, because it's sort of the benefits of a straight pull and the benefits of a traditional flanged as well. I think they're aluminium spokes, but I need to dig into that a little bit deeper, but I will find out for you. The big news on the rim, apart from it being hookless, it's actually foam cord as well. So inside this section here, there's actually a foam section as well, which makes things very stiff, very light. But to make sure that air can still escape, so if air does get underneath the tape and into that chamber, they've got this little pressure relief valve sort of rubber widget, which will prevent water from going into that foam core and making it heavy, but at the same time allowing any air to come out, because the last thing you want to do is to inflate that chamber. So when you see a normal wheel, you might see a little hole. Everyone kind of thinks it's for water, escaping, but it's not. It's actually there in case air goes underneath the rim tape and actually inflates that chamber and it blows up. There's plenty of examples on the internet of that happening. So they've done this slightly differently. They've got this little rubber valve here, which I think is a really neat solution. So when it comes down to the hub, first of all, these spin beautifully. Like just holding this in my hand, it feels like these are running on air. It is beautifully smooth. I cannot hear anything. And we might put this at the end of the video and just let these run, just because it's so nice. I just feel amazing. Anyway, we haven't got time for that. Let's pull this apart. So, interestingly, the end cap here is part of the bearing preload. So we have this little wave washer here. So this end cap can be compressed, and that's part of the bearing preload, which is, I've never seen that before actually. That's quite a neat little idea. This is the free hub body, and they have their own ratchet system. So we've got one for an XDR driver. That's just going to go on my Look 765, which is running the SRAM system. And the seal is built here on the end of the free hub body, which is nice. There's no internal tube there at all. It's all the preload is managed by the machining of the axle. And we have this little ratchet that you might recognize from like Mavic and DT Swiss rims. That's how that's going to work. And they've just got one spring actuating all of that, which is nice. Here's the axle. I won't take this out now, but it's beautifully well machined. So smooth. You can tell it's almost reminds me a bit of the Hambini bottom brackets, you know, when you touch them, they're just almost a perfect surface. These are very much the same. Someone's really machined this really, really precisely. They're running on, when I look at them, I think it's HCP bearings. I will check that and put it up on the screen and stuff for you. So not a bearing brand that's that common, but you have to admit they just feel so nice. It's hard to explain how nice that actually feels. And it's amazing that's still running, like no effort at all. And that's nearly all from not necessarily the quality of the bearings, but the quality of the machining of the hub and the axle, because all of that needs to be really precision made to make sure those bearings aren't under any sort of excess load, compression load or anything. That is just coming from pure precision of that engineering. I'd say I do quite like the look of them. I can imagine this going really well with like a Time Alpe d'Huez, you know, when they have that lovely sort of exposed 3K weave, etc. I think this would really, really suit that type of bike. So that's a little look at the build quality. How do I think they are going to ride? I think these are going to be very, very stiff. When you look at the Corima website and you sort of scroll through the wheels, unlike a lot of other brands where they just talk about weight and price, you can actually see they've got aerodynamics and stiffness and everything listed. The problem is they've given these Essentia 40s a stiffness rating of 2 according to their charts, like 2 out of 5 I think it is. It makes me wonder how stiff their other wheels get, because these already feel stiffer than most things that come into the workshop, road or gravel. In terms of actual weight, they're not that far different from our benchmark fast forward rides. This is the 33. This is slightly lighter, but it's slightly shallower. The 44s are slightly heavier, but slightly deeper. So these hit right in the middle in terms of weight. But I do think the rotational weight to me feels lighter. It's hard to separate that out until I start taking things apart. So I think we'll definitely notice a little bit of extra stiffness and some rotational weight potentially. And talking of benchmarking, because you remember the big long video I did when like, this is a benchmark, where do you go from here? Well, if we take that into consideration, that the fast forward rides are about 1,500 quid, DT Swiss, etc. This is about the same price. So a set of these Corima wheels is around £1,450. And yeah, they're about the same weight. So why would you choose these over a set of fast forwards? Well, kind of got my theories, but I do think I need to go and ride them to really get my head straight with that. So I'll see you back here in a few rides time and see if we can answer that question. We are out on a rather nice but blustery autumn day here in the South Lake District, and we are on the Look 765, that long slack endurance geometry, and of course the Essentia 40s, that all road and gravel wheel set, wrapped up in a set of Michelin Power Cups 30mm, which is a terrible choice of tyre because it's a little bit damp today and these tyres do not dry well. It's so strange. But let's have a think about what we want from a wheel set in these conditions. Now, on an endurance ride, it's very unlikely that we'll be throwing it into any sort of steep hairpin corners. We're much more likely to be trying to take a drink from our water bottle or have an energy gel and then suddenly hit like a rough piece of road or something that like throws off our balance. So our wheels just want to feel like we're in control at all times. That's what I consider a good set of endurance wheels. So fast, efficient, yes, also confidence inspiring on even the roughest of roads and the tiredest of riders. So with that criteria in mind, let's go and give these a test. I think what I'm trying to say is that I want these wheels to feel like I'm driving a Bentley Continental through rural France, not necessarily driving a Maserati through the Alps. I think that sums it up. Thoughts so far, and they're definitely meeting the criteria. Lovely and smooth on a rough bit of road, very confidence inspiring, tick, tick, tick. That's all good. What is a pleasant surprise is that they are stiffer than their product description and use case would suggest. So Corima have these down like a 2 out of 4 stiffness. I would say that's underestimating it a little bit. This is a nippy little set of wheels. I think you'll be pretty happy with them. Accelerating up hills, little pulling away, all very nice, lovely and smooth when they get going, really, really quiet. Probably the most noticeable thing about these wheels is actually the absence of any sound. I don't know what it is, maybe it's that foam core, but when you get these spun up, you miss that boom boom sound of like hollow deep section rims. They are just blissfully quiet, and that's actually really noticeable. I'm quite surprised.
Baby, you get me out there fine. You're channeling wind and rain. You're some kind of butterfly. Baby, you give me midnight. You whip up my appetite.
Right, change of scenery. We are outside with the Time ADHX 45 with these wheels. Now let's take a look at this. First of all, these wheels suit this bike so well. This whole 3K weave thing just matches absolutely perfect. I'm loving the whole made in Europe vibe as well. So we've got some Continental Terra Speed 45mm tubeless, because we are on some legitimate gravel. Look at that. No hiker biking today, but on the ride here, I can definitely say that that lovely, beautiful, smooth, quiet sensation was still prevalent with these tyres on in this sort of bike. But now I want to see how it handles the rough stuff. So we are, by the way, we are on the Garban Pass at the moment, heading up towards Troutbeck. We're going to drop down there, Kirkstone Pass, Jenkins Crag, head over out towards Ambleside. Well, that's going to be quite a good test on how the aesthetics hold up, because there were stones flying everywhere. It's good to see how well this like resin holds up to a bit of a battering. Now the crazy thing about the Time ADHX and these stiff wheels is that because they're so stiff, you can get away with almost any sort of off-road ride, because it just goes where you put it. Having that confident hand in it is so important. Just occurred to me, as much as I like talking about having a really stiff bike, stiff set of wheels, because it feels like you have so much control, you've got to remember that you need to be in control. Like, you need to have a grip. It's a bit like driving a go-kart or a racing car. It's very stiff, it's very agile, but you can't afford to let go of the handlebars and just relax. You know, you need to be on it. Well, I guess we're about to see how weatherproof all of this is. I'm really worried about the foam core just filling up with water and getting heavy, going mouldy. It looks like it's really well sealed, but I guess we're about to find out. I don't really know how we test it. I don't really want to take the rim tape off a set of test wheels, but I might have to. Anyway, this is Windermere Lakeshore. Classic bit of gravel. It's fast, it's smooth, it's so pretty. If you ever come up here, this is a great little gravel track to ride. When it's not flooded, that is. Okay, my time with these lovely Corima wheels is over, and I've taken this one apart again so we can have a little bit of a look at the details before we have to hand them back. Now, my hypothesis was roughly what I thought it was. These are stiffer than you imagine, and they perform really, really well on a road bike conditions and in a gravel bike conditions. And I think you have to ask the question, why would you choose this wheel set over anything else? Take those benchmarks. And for me, it really comes down to those categories. There's a category 1 and a category 2 on that ATSM rating. But unlike other wheels in this category, which I think are designed for gravel first, and like the road bike side is, well, it'll do gravel, it'll do road. I think this is first and foremost a really good quality road bike wheel. But you've got the advantage of being able to put it on a more performance orientated gravel bike. In fact, the 2 bikes that we use for this test, I think perfectly sum up this wheel test. That Look 765, the long, the slack endurance bike designed for those backcountry roads, those long days in the saddle. And then the high performance Time ADHX 45 gravel bike, where we're running a relatively narrow tyre on the steeper angles. This is probably the ideal wheel set for that sort of situation. If you'd have two bikes but one wheel set, that sort of a vibe. And I think you'd be really happy with the performance of this wheel set in both situations. Now, I've got to address the elephant in the room, and that is that these are a hookless design, and like most hookless wheels, they communicate it quite badly. In fact, if you scan that little QR code thing, it will take you to the tyre pressure calculator, and listed it will say sizes 28 to 35, I think it is. But if you put the 28 in, you'll find that an 80 kilogram rider will be running them at absolute max PSI, which isn't that cool. However, if you start with a 30 millimeter tyre like we did, you don't have a weight limit issue whatsoever. You're going to be well exceeding the weight limit of the bike and the wheel set before you're exceeding the weight limit of the tubeless setup. So it would have been much easier to say this is a wheel set for 30 millimeters up to 50 millimeters for all road and gravel. Job done, here's your pressure calculations. And I think that would be absolutely fine. I think we'd all understand very clear instructions like that. A little word on the tubeless thing, on the quality wise. Measuring this, we've got exactly the 6 millimeters required by the ETRTO. Similar sort of instructions you'll find is 2 full wraps of 0.1 millimeter tubeless tape. That was all in place as well, stuck down really well. The quality behind this tape is fantastic actually. You can see the join, but it looks like someone's finished it because it's a perfectly smoothed out join. And now that I've taken it all apart, you know, after we rode through the lake, I was really worried about how much water would get into this foam core. It is as dry as anything. It's fantastic. It's really nice quality in there. And peering down these holes, you can see that foam core, and you can see the nipple washers and the brass nipples, and you can see the spoke come exactly to the end of that nipple. So it's a really nicely constructed wheel. So absolutely no problems about the quality. I think it's absolutely beautiful. Also, I've taken the axle out because I didn't actually wash my bike for a couple of days after that ride, and it is dry as a bone in there, absolutely perfect. So I haven't even really cleaned it up, to be honest. That is just nicely weather sealed, probably more through precision than anything else. And those bearings are still running beautifully. So yeah, quality, absolutely can't fault them at all. And yeah, finally for me, I think it's been an absolute pleasure to see the quality of engineering coming out of European brands and European manufacturing that isn't costing the world. I think this is a really reasonable price, about £1,400 here in the UK, which I think is on par with everything that you're sort of buying at this sort of quality from brands that are half made in China, half made in Germany, or whatever. So yeah, I think this wheel review ends with a big thumbs up from me. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing more from Corima, especially those really mad spoked ones that they've just put on the top of the range blades. That looks really interesting. Hopefully we're going to show you an example of that. We're heading down to Roulier Live, and I think they're going to have some on display there. So if they do, I'm taking a camera and see if I can show you guys this crazy wheel set. I think you'll love it. All right, that's it. Thanks for listening, everybody. If you like this sort of video, give it a big thumbs up, like and subscribe, all that sort of stuff, and get your comments down below. Have you tried these? What do you think? And I'll see you on the next one.